Welcome to the greatest podcast in sports betting entertainment. My name is Tanner Kern, certified G, bona fide stud, and you can't teach that. In this right here, this is G Money Grant Mitchell. We are here breaking down everything you need to know about the NFL draft, the NFL combine, and you can't teach that. Bada boom. Man, the people in the room, G Money Grant Mitchell, how you doing?
It's Friday, so I got to be doing good, Tanner. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little echoey right now, which you can't see on this camera. It looks like nothing has changed. My background is the same. Because I'm moving out of here, everything is completely cleared out. The walls are barren. There's nothing around. I got my lights in front of me. I got actually a fan right here because my AC is not on, and I left this up. But if I were to show you around this apartment, everything's off the walls. There are boxes everywhere. Move-in day is next Saturday, so we're pretty much. I would say we're about 80%, 85% prepared.
There you go. You're moving just like players are moving at the combine, fast.
There you go.
What a segue by me. We're talking about the combine today, but before we talk about the combine, Grant's going to tell you why you need to subscribe to this podcast channel, why you need to check out WSN, and why you need to smash the subscribe button right now.
Guys, first of all, if you're listening on Spotify or wherever, then you can't really subscribe. But if you're on YouTube, like pretty much all of our listeners are, then you got to hit that subscribe button. I mean, we've been getting a lot of views lately, and we do appreciate it. But that subscriber number, I should say, is not really changing a whole lot. So please lock in, join us on this journey through the NFL Combine, the NFL Draft, NBA playoffs, March Madness, MLB's coming back, all of that. You're going to get the best content in the sports betting world, like Tanner said right here. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well.
It's actually a sneaky good time in the sports world right now because there's so much to look forward to where I'm kind of struggling. You know, we're sitting here talking about what we're going to discuss on the podcast today, the NFL draft, all that. But we have a lot of good things coming, which is really exciting, even though right now is a little bit of a dead period.
Yeah, people, whenever the Super Bowl comes and goes, it's kind of like, oh, what are we going to look forward to now? But you're right. I mean, we have the NHL is going really well. That the Four Nations tournament was awesome, and we're going to get to the postseason soon. MLB is about to start up. But we got, I think, like maybe 6-7 weeks of the NBA season left. There's some good headlines going on over there. And if you're like me, I know this is a very small minority, but a new track league is starting up pretty soon. It's much more robust in terms of they're making it like this group versus this group, and there's some cool plans for that. So we'll see.
It's dumb.
So there's I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get it. Our audience didn't come for track.
I don't want to get into it either. Grant, Shemar Stewart. Let's talk about this freak show out of Texas A&M. Break it down for me. He had a big day at the combine yesterday.
Yeah, so right now, and I don't have his bench score. We don't have his bench score, but right now through what he's done, which is the 40, they've measured his height and weight, obviously. He's done the vertical jump. He's done the broad jump, hand size, arm length, all that. He's currently the most athletic edge rusher in the history of the NFL Combine. There are, I believe, 1,802 total players that have been measured at the edge rusher position, and he's number one. So that's pretty awesome. That's this guy was already in the first round based off of what it looked like. If you look at a bunch of mock drafts, everybody had Shemar Stewart in the first round, and it was all off of analyzing the tape, what he looked like, what you saw, the explosiveness, you saw the speed, you saw the power. But if you look at his actual numbers, in 3 straight seasons at Texas A&M, he had 1.5 sacks. 1.5 sacks as a freshman, 1.5 sacks as a sophomore, 1.5 sacks as a junior. There's been no progression. Those are terrible numbers anyway. We killed Trayvon Walker when the Jags took him with the first pick 3 years ago. Trayvon Walker had, I think it was maybe 2.5 sacks, 1 sack, and then 6 sacks. It was something like those were his numbers. I know it was 6 in his final season. We were killing the Jags for taking him first overall with 6. Shemar Stewart has 75% of that in his entire college career. So this, more than any other pick maybe in NFL history, is going to show how much do you value potential and athleticism versus how much do you value production.
So he's the 3rd ranked edge prospect in the draft. I don't know if that was right now or prior to yesterday. It seemed like he had some buzz coming into the combine, maybe a little more than Trayvon Walker from a few years ago. I could be totally wrong about that, but just based on what I'm reading, it seemed like he had a little buzz. But the problem is with the defensive ends, Abdul Carter has taken up so much attention, so we really haven't thought of other guys. But in my opinion, I think teams react too much to the combine. Now, going off Trayvon Walker from a few years ago, who jumped Aiden Hutchinson for the #1 pick because of how he tested, that's a guy who's delivered 10 sacks a year. He's been fantastic for Jacksonville. But when you're looking at a guy like Anthony Richardson, who tested really well, had a big arm, that's a guy who didn't necessarily perform because he didn't play a lot of football in college. Now you bring him the NFL, he's not going to be great. So I think at like a position like quarterback, you need to look at the tape just as much as you look at the athleticism. Maybe defensive end, you can get away with it, but still, I like looking at tape just as much as I like looking at their athletic scores.
So if you dive into numbers beyond the athletic scores, this guy, Shemar Stewart's a real enigma. So despite only having 1.5 sacks last year, he led Texas A&M in pressures. That's important because Nick Scorton, also an edge rusher for A&M, could be a first-round draft pick. And he had 8-9 sacks, something like that, but it was Stewart who was getting more pressure on the quarterback. However, he was tied for 741st in sacks amongst all college players. He was, if you look at Pro Football Focus's rankings, he was the 335th best pass rusher, but he was also the 6th best run defender. So, I mean, this guy is all over the place. And I can understand the buzz. I can understand the interest from NFL teams because, again, we don't think about defending the run as being the primary job of an edge rusher. We think of that more as an interior guy. But if he's one of the best edge defenders in college, he led his team in pressures, and he's the most athletic edge rusher in NFL history or NFL combine history, I understand the interest. But like you mentioned there, it always just comes back to how heavily do you value potential and how heavily do you value production? A guy like Jack Sawyer from Ohio State was sensational in the college football playoff. He had that game-winning strip sack, which he returned for a touchdown against Texas. He had all the production in the world in college, yet he's projected to be a second, maybe third-round draft pick, and he's not really done anything special at the combine.
It's the balance between the two, I think. And 1.5 sacks is a little alarming. I don't care if you're playing the interior in the SEC, honestly. If you're a top-tier interior guy, and he's an edge guy, but if you're a top-tier interior guy, you should be putting up more than 1.5 sacks. Or at least getting up there and making some pressures and getting your pressure rate. So I think when you look at Shemar Stewart here, the numbers jump off the board, but you need to see it on tape too. So if we're obviously scouts are smarter than us when it comes to that, but if you can see the potential on tape and then you factor in the numbers, that's a guy you can draft more so than somebody who you don't see the potential on tape. As you were saying, the pressure rate's high, but according to PFF, he's not the best pass rusher. When you look at just the stats overall, nothing jumps off the board. So I think for defensive end, though, athleticism, when you're running that 40-yard dash, your 10-yard split, that means a lot because your get off is everything and getting to the quarterback. And I think, too, if he does go to the NFL for a team, they're probably not going to ask him to do the same things in college. And maybe at Texas A&M, he was asked to be more of an every down guy. He might just be a third down guy in the pros because that's what they're trying to get him for with his athleticism.
Yeah, but at the same time, he was still one of the best run defenders in college. So, again, this guy's it's all over the place. It's tough to pin down where he's going to go, what he's going to do, how good he's going to be. I can read you some of his comparisons between Myles Garrett, himself and Myles Garrett. So they're both 6'5", Garrett's 6'4.5", but whatever. They're within 5 pounds of one another. Shemar Stewart ran a 4.59 in the 40. Garrett ran a 4.64. Stewart's 10-yard split was 1.58. Myles Garrett's was 1.63. It was a 40 versus a 41-inch vertical leap, 10.11 versus 10.8 broad jump. And then the relative athletic score, Shemar Stewart got a perfect 10 out of 10. Garrett got a 9.98. So basically identical between the two of them.
But Myles Garrett also had the film coming out of college.
Oh, yeah. He had more than 30 sacks.
Yeah.
And he, funny, he also went to Texas A&M. Shemar Stewart had 4.5. Garrett was, I think, 32.
Yeah, so that's the difference too. And it depends what you're trying to do. I don't think you're going to draft a run defender high. Like if he's just there to defend the run and he's a defensive end, when you're signing a top tier defensive end, you need a guy that can get after the quarterback. Like straight up, if he defends the run, he's not going to be a first-round draft pick. With that being said, if you think you can evolve the pass rush skills and he can also play the run in the meantime, that's somebody that you might want to take a risk on. But when I'm looking at the defensive ends right now, Abdul Carter could literally have a broken kneecap, and I am still going to draft Abdul Carter because the dude's a generational prospect.
Yeah, Shemar Stewart, we were talking about his pressures earlier and how it led A&M. So he generated pressures on just about 7% of his snaps. Carter was at 20%.
Yeah. So I'm going to take Abdul Carter any day of the week, no matter if he's injured. I hope he falls a little bit because if he falls to 4 for New England, they're taking him in a minute. I think when you're looking at just the top prospects, Travis Hunter, and you look at Abdul Carter, those two guys, I don't think you can go wrong with either of them quarterback wise. I don't know what you're going to get out of a Cam Ward. I don't know what you're going to get out of Shedeur Sanders, but I think if you draft Travis Hunter or you draft Abdul Carter, one of those guys is going to at least be a mainstay in your franchise for a very long time.
It's interesting that you bring those guys up because I saw that Booger McFarland tweeted that with Abdul Carter's foot injury, as it's been discovered, although it seems like he's not going to get surgery, but even still with the questions there, Booger said that Shemar Stewart should be in consideration for one of the top 2 picks in the draft. I did write down some of the big mock drafts and where they had Shemar Stewart, like Mel Kiper, Field Yates, if you'd like to hear them. So we've got the Cardinals at 16, Cardinals at 16, Ravens 27, Falcons 15, Bengals 17, Lions 28, Packers 23, Bengals 17. So
post combine. This is
pre
com. So he was going to be a first round pick no matter what.
Yeah, but a lot of that was projection. People knew he was going to test well, and that was being factored in. But still, there's basically no overlap with this. You're getting him as high as 15. You're getting him as low as 27.
If a guy is graded as the 15th or the 27th ranked prospect, there's no chance he should become or the whatever projected draft position. There's no chance he should ever become the first pick in the draft. I don't care how well he tests. He could run a 340. I don't care. Like when you look at the tape and you look at how they test, it shouldn't jump a guy who we've been talking about as a generational prospect, whatever player you want to call a generational prospect up top, whether it's Abdul Carter, whether it's Travis Hunter, whether it's Cam Ward. I'm not saying he's generational. We don't know. But they should never jump those players. And maybe he goes from 17th up to 10th, like a top 10 pick, but never considered for the 1 pick. Like that. Some of the things they say on ESPN now, wild. The
team that drafts him is going to have to be confident in their head coach's patience, and they also have to be confident in their head coach and their position coach's ability to develop a player. Because obviously, you're not bringing him in. You bring in Abdul Carter, you know what he's going to do. He's going to get, I would say he's going to get a minimum of 7 sacks as a rookie, and he's going to be a guy who makes all pro teams. You know that's what you're getting. With Shemar Stewart, it's like, well, this might be 4 or 5 years from now, this might be the edge rusher in the world, but he might not be in the NFL anymore. You've got to be confident in yourself and your ability to develop his potential. Because if you're just taking him, if you're a team or an organization with no history of getting these guys and developing, getting the best out of your players, and you're drafting him just because of his potential, well, he's still got to fill that potential. You got to help him get there.
Here's why, and I'm going to go back to Shemar Stewart in a second, but here's the biggest issue, I think. When guys go high, like personally, if I was going to be the 17th pick or the 27th pick, and I know there's a lot of money that you do lose from those spots, but these guys made money in college. What is it? It's a few $1 million they're going to lose. I'd rather go 27th to a contender than I would go, 6 to a team that's going to be trash. And the problem is, too, with these teams, they don't develop well. The teams at the top, they don't develop well. They don't hire well from the inside the organization. We see it consistently, like the draft grade or the report cards that just came out for these teams. It's mind blowing how bad these top, the teams that draft high, how bad they score because the players don't want to be there. Their families don't want to be there. The coaches don't want to be there. They have bad nutrition, bad trainers, all that stuff. So I don't think you can necessarily count like for Shemar Stewart. If he's available and I'm the Ravens, I'm taking him. But if I'm a top tier pick, like, or a top team drafting, I want somebody who's probably a little more developed. And when you look at his pros, and this is the way it's going to be on every scouting report, pros are strengths, freakish athletic testing at the combine, weaknesses, production doesn't match at elite athletic profile. I want somebody who matches it a little more. I'd rather have somebody who runs a little slower, but they had 10 sacks in the SEC last year.
Did you pick the Ravens just randomly, or was there a reason you chose them?
Well, the thing with the Ravens is they were bad. The secondary cost them at times, and they need to get to the quarterback. So I think that could be a good fit.
So in my mock draft that I posted on WSN and the World Sports Network, you guys are into sports betting, you got to go check it out. Got a bunch of content, promo codes, betting picks, all that great stuff. And my mock draft that I wrote over there, I had Shemar Stewart going at 27 to the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I can't control if another team falls in love with him, but to what you were saying, I think that would be the optimal situation for him and for the Ravens, because if they take him and he never plays a down in the NFL, they're still going to be good. They got a 2-time MVP at quarterback. The defense, we saw how much they improved over the back half of last year. Why I think it's the best situation for him is he's not going to be asked to, he's not going to be asked to produce on day one. This is an organization that it seems like every single year for decades has had a strong defense. They know how to build that pass rush. They know how to get these freak athlete guys. Think Kyle Hamilton was a much, much more productive college player, but still like a freak athlete, a guy who's not exactly what you always find every day. So I think that would be a great spot for both teams or both parties.
I think the Baltimore Ravens need to trade Mark Andrews and draft a tight end.
Interesting.
I think they need to do that because the dude can't catch anymore. But Tyler Warren would be a cool, not that he's going to make it that far. He's going to be off the board by halfway through the first round. But if I'm the Ravens, I'm trying to get Tyler Warren, and I'm saying Mark Andrews, see you later, buddy.
I heard, well, first of all, actually, keep in mind, Isaiah Likely's pretty good, but Baltimore does like to run a lot of 2 tight end stuff. So I get that.
Isaiah Likely is good, but yeah, they've been leaning on 2 tight ends. It was weird. Like Mark Andrews was an offensive lineman early in the season, and then he became the focal point, and Isaiah Likely kind of faded off in the distance. But early in the season, it was all Isaiah Likely.
Yeah. So back to the tight ends. I heard somebody say Colston Loveland is actually the best tight end in this draft class. You just didn't know because Michigan pretty much never threw the football, especially this season. But I heard somebody say that he's better. And then Harold Fannin smashed NCAA records for production. It was at Bowling Green, but he went to the pro day. He didn't look out of place. We'll see what he does at the combine here.
It's interesting for a tight end. Like, again, if you're a receiver or a tight end and you don't have the best season, like if you run fast and you catch the ball well and you can show off your quick lateral movement, you're going to be fine. But when I'm looking at what Tyler Warren did at Penn State, he was the sole reason they were really good on offense from an offensive perspective. So like that carries so much weight. The fact that he was playing basically like a wide receiver, being asked to make big catches down the field, short catches, block, do everything for them. Just a total Iron Man. So that means a lot to me if I were a scout.
Did you watch the Penn State USC game last year or this season, I guess?
I'm not yes, it was at USC or no.
I actually don't remember.
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't. The Big Ten bothers me. Like personally, I think Fox Big Noon Kickoff is trash. Like the SEC on ESPN. I watch the SEC weekly, like the 12, the 4, and the 8, or the 12, 4, and the 7 slot on ESPN. I didn't really watch Fox Big Noon Kickoff unless it was a big game because I hate the broadcast crew. They're not great. And I just don't like who makes their primetime game at noon?
It was a money thing.
Yeah, they have to because you can't compete with ABC at 7 o'clock.
The reason I brought up that game is Warren had 17 receptions for 200 and something yards, and he was running wildcat like he was the guy under center. And they line him up in the backfield, they line him up at tight end, line him up out wide. They even had him snap the ball. He played center and then ran a route out from center on one play. He called a touchdown off of it.
Yeah, he's a stud. And if I'm the Ravens, I want to get him because And I think back to Drew Aller. If Drew Aller can throw a game-losing interception to Notre Dame and get on the podium and say, yeah, I blew it, like this is on me, Mark Andrews should be able to do the same thing in the AFC divisional round. Yeah.
Did you see why Tyler Warren wears number 44?
Why?
He said his dad, when he was growing up, made him do nothing but watch John Riggins highlights. And he said, that's how you're supposed to run the football right there. So he took his number.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So
what
wait,
we got next?
It just hit me too. John Riggins, Tim Riggins in Friday Night Lights is probably modeled after John Riggins.
Yeah, probably.
Like a big white fullback.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's how a white man runs the football.
Yeah, that's how a white man runs football. That's great. That's great. Yeah. I want to see another Cooper DeJean in the NFL. That would be really cool.
Well, they've got to come from Iowa. They've got some more white corners there right now.
But like, you know how, and I saw like Caitlin Clark the other day, like there was a big statue of Caitlin Clark or poster or whatever. And there was this little girl like standing outside, like looking up to it. Like Cooper DeJean is going to be like, when I'm a white cornerback at like Rivals camp or 247 camps in the future, and I'm looking around and a little out of place, I'm going to be like, you know what? I belong here because there's someone that did it.
I do wonder if there are white receivers who their coaches moved them or they moved themselves to receiver away from corner. Like, could Cooper Kupp have played corner? I know Julian Edelman played quarterback, but like, could Julian Edelman have been a nickel corner?
Probably not. Like, corner is the toughest position to play in the NFL. That's what they all say. I think
aside from quarterback.
No, people say corner over quarterback.
I think physically it's the hardest, but I think the mental processing of the quarterback makes it harder.
Yes, but like I've heard a lot of NFL players and even quarterbacks say that corner is harder than quarterback because you take DK Metcalf, put yourself on an island with him or AJ Brown, and you don't know where he's going to go, and you need to defend him, and then you need to determine if it's going to be a run or a pass, get off a block, shut a blocker and go. At its base, though, if you're a great NFL cornerback, like you are going to be literally one-on-one with the best receiver. Like schematically, you probably don't have to worry about a ton. With that being said, defending DK Metcalf on a vertical route is probably a nightmare. So I don't think we're going to get a lot more white cornerbacks, but Cooper DeJean he's changed the game. So maybe in a few years we'll get a few.
I saw a video of people who just lived, not like his classmates or anything, but people who just lived in the town in Iowa where he's from. They were all hanging out watching the Super Bowl together. I saw a little reaction to him getting the pick six. It was pretty wholesome.
The retirement home, basically.
Yeah,
that was good. That it looked fake.
Come on, be happy for him.
I'm happy. I'm going to buy a Cooper DeJean jersey probably. Like
I believe you. Your jersey collection is expansive.
I mean, if I can buy a white cornerback jersey, damn, I'll buy that. Like I'd like an Austin Reeves jersey still, but like I feel like the Luka jersey is too basic. Like the Luka is way too basic. You can't get a Luka Lakers jersey.
Nah, I'm with you. So you collect football jerseys and baseball jerseys for the most part. I have a basketball jersey collection, and all my jerseys are. I'm trying to think. I mean, I have a LeBron jersey, but aside from that, I don't have like a top 20, top 25 player all-time jersey. It's normally some players a little more niche, and the jersey itself has to be cool. These yellow Laker uniforms, I'm sorry, the uniform should be gold. I don't get why we're getting this dull yellow.
But that's what a lot of teams that wear gold do. They get yellow.
Why?
I don't know. It's just that's how it is. You guys can't wear gold because you haven't won a championship since the Boston Celtics won a championship. So
nobody has won a championship since the Celtics.
There you go. Before we get into our next football topic, which we're going to talk a little bit of Matt Stafford and we're going to talk a little Aaron Rodgers. Did you see? We're talking basketball news, not a lot to talk about right now besides the Lakers. But did you see that Stephen A. Smith said that SGA is Michael Jordan Jr. basically?
I did see that.
Wild quote. Wild quote. Straight disrespect to Jason Tatum, too, by the way. Straight disrespect to Jason Tatum.
Shea is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong. And he's He's a two-way player, which is a little bit more rare for the top guards, although SGA and they both play both ways now. But like it's Jordan didn't win a title. You know, Tatum won a title before Jordan did. Like there's still time for SGA. It's where we live in an era where it's like everybody wants production immediately, and it doesn't happen that way. So I'm not saying that it couldn't happen for SGA, but to say he's on that trajectory when he didn't win anything in college, he doesn't have any individual accolades, he's never even made it to the conference finals in the NBA. What are we doing? Because he's averaging 30 points, he's Michael Jordan now?
And I basically said that was straight disrespect to Jason Tatum, who's got more all-NBA teams, more all-stars, a championship. And then people in the comments section when I made that video were like, Jason Tatum sucks. Jason Tatum is the most disrespected player in the NBA, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely is. Well, actually, I'm trying to think of the short list. I think it would be Bronny, Rudy Gobert, and Jason Tatum.
Yeah, but come on, Bronny. Like Bronny shouldn't be in the NBA.
Yes, he should. I'm pushing back on this. Bronny has been one of the best players in the G League, and so like I'm fine with him being on two-way contract.
But if Bronny wasn't named Bronny James, he would be playing at USC right now.
Maybe he wouldn't have been drafted, but I'm telling you, he's genuinely been one of the best players in the G League.
That's great.
So you can't say it's an awful. Take Bronny out of it. Tatum's probably the most disrespected player in the NBA.
So somebody like quote tweeted that and put a graphic. It was players to score 16,000 total points before 27. LeBron, KD, Kobe, and Tatum.
Yeah.
Then people are like shitting on Tatum in that too. Like this man he's just a good dude. Why do the good dudes get shit on?
Well, so I don't think that it's a good dude. I think Tatum's issues for a long time, he kept getting close and losing. And even, when they did win the championship, he wasn't finals MVP. He wasn't even conference finals MVP, which didn't really help things. He was a meme for sitting at the Olympics. He seems to have a very boring personality. It's tough for people to latch onto him. And then when they did finally win, he spent the next month trying to recreate the celebration of all the other famous people who'd already won. He's like, oh my God, we did it.
Yeah, that was bad. That one was bad. But still, like it's still Jason Tatum. And people like what Jason Tatum has done. Like, and he was losing in these big games. The dude was 23 years old, losing in these big games.
Oh no, he was I think he was 19 in the conference finals.
When the Warriors final was 22.
That was 21-22.
So he was 22 years old, basically losing that.
Yeah.
I mean, like people are just too hard in today's world. But I saw that quote. I wanted to ask you about it because I saw the Stephen A thing, and I'm like, that is not that I watch SGA every night of the week by any means, but to say he's Michael Jordan Jr. basically right now when he hasn't done a whole lot in the league, and people didn't really know who he was coming out of Kentucky, did they?
Now he was drafted, I want to say in like the 16th region or so.
Yeah. So.
And anyway. he was part of the trade package that got the Clippers Paul George. So obviously they were fine with parting ways with him. It was either his rookie season or his sophomore season. They're like, nah, get out of here.
There's so much. We keep forgetting all the NBA news to talk about. Paul George is no longer a podcaster because he wants to focus on the Sixers championship run.
You know what? If he said I need to lock in on the season, I've been distracted, whatever, I would have been like, you know what? Congratulations, Paul George. That's the right thing to do. The Philadelphia 76ers are 20-38. What does he mean he wants to lock in on a championship? Joel Embiid might not play again for the rest of the season. Kelly Oubre is getting run over by cars. The whole team is injured. Like this, the championship is not happening, Paul George. You don't have to quit the pod. You can quit the podcast, but don't say it's to win a championship because it's not happening.
I mean, they're 2 games out of the play-in basically right now. He's just getting like Paul. Speaking of disrespected players who probably deserve it, I would put Paul George up there.
Who deserve it?
There was a graphic the other day on Twitter. It was like how to create the worst player in the NBA, and it was like everything.
It's like Paul George, shooting ability, Paul George, injury health, Paul George.
Yeah, that was so like that's why. Like I'm sure the comments to his Actually, you know what? I gotta look at a couple of Paul George comments right now.
So while you do that, I'll just read off some of his numbers. He's averaging 16 points per game. That's his lowest since his his second season, which was in 2011. He's shooting 43% from the field. He's 5 rebounds a game. They signed him to a 4-year max deal in the offseason, and he already looks washed.
These comments, nothing like warming up with a podcast for a 50-point blowout. More podcasts than points this season, games played this season. Let's see. Dude has more podcast episodes than 3 points this season. Paul said he's pausing the pod to pursue a championship with 100 laughing emojis. Like, that's why. And don't act like people say that the pros don't. There are people that say the pros don't see comments. Like they'll stay away because they get, like, Paul George saw the comments. He did not like the comments. That's why he was stepping away.
Did you know the Sixers haven't won a game since the Eagles won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I saw that stat too the other day. And then also NBA Centel got banned yesterday. Did you see that? All the NBA teams tweeting about Centel going. That was crazy.
Stephen A. Smith tweeted "Rip Centel."
And then he brought it back. So that was pretty cool. But anyways, yeah, that's basically NBA news in a nutshell. I think that's the highlights.
What else were we going to talk about? We're going to talk about.
We'll save Bears for another time, but we'll talk Stafford and Rodgers. It looks like to me, if I'm looking at how the quarterback situation's unfolding right now and the teams that do need a quarterback, the Giants want Stafford. I saw a tweet before this saying the Giants are going to get Stafford, give him $50 million a year. They're going to win 7 games. Dable's going to get fired. Joe Shane's going to get fired. And then the next GM and head coach are going to have to deal with this contract. Like, that's the perfect Giants storyline right there. So when I saw that, it makes me really believe they're going to get him.
Yeah, I mean, so in that mock draft that I put out on WSN, I had Travis Hunter going to the Giants at 3. A lot of people were saying, why would you do that? So in my actual write-up of the pick, I said, I think they're going to get Matthew Stafford. And if not, then a Jameis Winston. But they're going to go get somebody. And we talked about it on this show. You know, Dable, Sheen, they've got to try to save their jobs. You draft a rookie, he goes 4-13. Your organization might be fine in a long-term outlook because you got a rookie who's going to develop, but you're probably going to be fired. So I do think they're going to try to bring in somebody experienced. I'll be honest, Stafford doesn't really help anything. You know, Matthew Stafford is the guy who's ready to win the Super Bowl. The rest of the Giants roster is absolutely not ready to do that. They're going to have to pay him a bunch of money. He wants to be paid $50 million a year. He's not somebody you would build around, but it would at least make you competitive, get you to like maybe 500 this year. And I think they have a really good chance of doing it. His next team odds, though, which brings us to another Matthew Stafford story. The Raiders are number 1 at plus 200. The Steelers at plus 350. The Rams at plus 600. Giants at plus 800. And then it's all teams above plus 1,000. The Raiders being there at plus 200, I think, is pretty obvious. No, it's got to be that ski trip with Tom Brady.
Well, if I'm Stafford, I want to go play for the Raiders. Like, that's not even a question. I don't want to play for the Giants. Unless you have the desire to play in New York for some reason for a bad team. But if you play for the Giants, you're going to have to be in a division with the Eagles. You're going to have to be in a division with the Commanders. The Cowboys,
the Raiders are in a division with the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos.
With that being said, you're going to be the Chiefs maybe are on the downhill a little bit. The Chargers, I don't know if they'll be good or not. Like, I feel like they're a team that just can't take the next step. The Broncos are going to be good, but Matthew Stafford makes the Raiders more of a contender if they can add pieces around him. Matthew Stafford to the Giants does nothing to change their outlook in the NFC East.
I mean, I would say it changes nothing about the Raiders' outlook either.
No, but I trust that the Raiders can figure it out in 2 to 3 years, potentially. I don't trust the Giants can figure it out in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I would like to see Stafford. You know, the Steelers are second on this list. I would like to see Stafford go there more than any of these other options, just as far as what he deserves, what someone of his talent deserves. Someone of his talent doesn't deserve to be on a bottom feeder. He should be competing for the postseason, maybe even a Super Bowl.
Brady changes the outlook of the Raiders because Brady's a winner. That's the biggest thing. I think Brady can change that place in 3 years. And that's about Stafford's window. I'd give him 3, maybe 3 left, probably 2.
What's Brady's role? An owner?
Yeah, part owner.
I mean, I guess the owner definitely plays into things. I was thinking if it was a GM, like I don't know if being a winner necessarily changes anything, because at the end of the day, you got to be smart financially. Your talent scouting's got to be good, all that. But the owner can come in. The owner can change the culture.
He's also calling games though, which you can't do. Like I would rather see Brady not calling games, because truthfully, I'm the biggest Tom Brady fan. Like I love, like many people in New England, I love Tom Brady. I didn't watch one game because he was calling a game. Like nothing. Him did not bring me to a football game at all. He did not bring me to one.
And I was kind of furious when I heard that he was going to be calling the NFC Championship game in the Super Bowl. It's like, this guy sucks. I don't want to listen to him.
He got better.
He went from horrific to bad. So yeah, he got better, but still, I mean, I would rather listen to Ian Eagle, Kevin Burkhardt, Jim Nance, Tony Romo, Greg Olson. Like, you can run down the list, and I would pick pretty much everybody ahead of him.
Tony made a comeback.
I don't know why people turned on Tony.
Because there was a few moments, like a few years ago, when he'd be like, Nance would go, what are we going to get here, Tony? I don't know, Jim. I don't know, Jim. Like the I don't know, Jim was huge. And then apparently there are all the reports coming out. He was playing a little too much golf and not studying the players enough. So like he was really unprepared. But because he came out so hot when he was just calling the plays up and down the field, that one drive, and I think it was a Mahomes drive or a Josh Allen drive, he literally called every single play, and then he became this guy, and then he got too big for his britches.
Well, and also the Fox, I think it's Fox, right? Yeah, Fox told him you can't do that. You can't spoil the game.
He's CBS, I think.
Oh, CBS, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I like Fox Fox is just a cooler product than CBS broadcast-wise. So, Brady's got to figure it out.
Well, moving on from Matthew Stafford here, he's obviously leaving the LA Rams. Aaron Rodgers, next team odds, Tanner. Get this. The Rams at plus 100.
Wow. So that doesn't make sense to me though. Like why do that? You're in a position to compete more with Matthew Stafford than you are with Aaron Rodgers.
So is Rodgers under contract next year? I'm looking right now. I didn't know if you knew off the top of your head.
The Rams must be entering like a massive rebuild though, because they told an offensive guard that they were gave a lot of money to the other day, like you're good to leave. So they must just not want to pay anybody and want to go into a rebuild.
So Rodgers is under contract next year. The way it would have to work out, basically, Stafford's going to make, I think it's only like $25 million next year, and he wants 50. They don't want to pay him that. Rodgers is going to want to get paid, but I guess the thinking is maybe Rodgers, either the Jets will eat some of his salary, or Rodgers is going to recognize this is probably my last year and I'll take a discount.
So with Stafford though, his base is 23 million, but his cap hit is 49 million. So the team's gonna have to pay him that much.
Okay.
Because the bonus, the restructure, the roster bonus, the prorated option bonus. So he's a $49 million dead cap to a team.
The rest of the teams here for Aaron Rodgers, next team odds: Rams plus 100, Raiders, Colts, Steelers, all 4-1. You've got Vikings, Titans plus 650 each, and then some other teams.
Yeah.
I think if I'm looking at these, the Raiders are going to get somebody. We know that. I don't think it would be Aaron Rodgers, but it makes sense they're there. I would say the Rams have to be the top option. If they're going to get rid of Stafford and Rodgers needs a home, I think the Rams make sense. The Colts make sense. If the Anthony Richardson thing just isn't really working out. Now, if you bring in Aaron Rodgers, that means Anthony Richardson is done, because Rodgers is not a culture guy. He's not a leader. He's not somebody who's going to develop a young quarterback, especially one who, Anthony Richardson and Aaron Rodgers are probably the two most opposite quarterbacks in the league. So it's not like you're bringing him in to mentor him. So again, if that happens, it means they're done with Anthony Richardson. I'm going to guess he ends up Rams or Steelers. I think one of those two.
Yeah, I could see Rams or Steelers, or I could see him not playing. Like, that's the thing with Mike Tomlin. I don't know if he'll bring in Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if he wants to bring in Aaron Rodgers.
They've always had this kind of love affair. Like, you remember the clip of them 4 or 5 years ago when they were like smiling at each other? There was like a penalty or something, and Rodgers was smiling at him.
No.
Well, point being, there's always been a little flirty with each other, very complimentary, like look like long lost friends, essentially.
Do you notice what these bad teams do though? Like the Jets, they just transitioned from. I mean, they drafted whatever Wilson a few years ago, but they're switching from Aaron Rodgers to potentially a veteran. The Browns, Deshaun Watson, they may switch to a veteran, like, whoever they're going to take. It could be Rodgers, it could be Stafford, it could be Sam Darnold. I don't know. Like
Kirk Cousins,
New York Giants, just veterans coming in and out the door. The teams that it's almost like it, and this is not the quarterback class to do it, I don't think, but eventually these teams that just flop these veteran quarterbacks, like you got to say, hey, we're going to draft a dude. And like even for example, if I was if I'm the New York Giants and I can get Travis Hunter early, I can get Matthew Stafford, like I'm going to consider picking a quarterback in the second round. Like I'm going to consider taking Will Howard, somebody that Matthew Stafford could teach a little bit. And maybe that could be my guy in the future. I don't know. But like, I'm going to consider that because this is the time to do it when you're in a division that's loaded. You're probably not going to be good. You're almost in a bridge time with your quarterback. That would be the guy to learn from.
I'm also a very big proponent of let your rookie quarterback sit for a year. If it's a Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, CJ Stroud situation, that changes my feelings. But for the most part, if you can do it, let the kid sit. It has pretty much always turned out for the better.
Well, Jordan Love, like I see the hype with Jordan Love, but I need to see it in the playoffs. I need to see them take the next step.
He's better than average at the very least.
He is better than average, and sitting definitely helped him. But I don't think Jordan Love, there was a lot of top 5 discussions at times with Jordan Love this year, earlier in the year. I can't see that at all.
Well, everybody knows who the top 4 is. It's just a matter of who's 5th.
Yeah.
I think Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, Stafford. Trying to think, am I missing anybody? Those are the guys I would put in that conversation.
You have to put Jalen up there now, but people would strongly disagree with that.
Yeah. A year ago, definitely people would have disagreed. Jalen played well this year. He just wasn't asked to do much.
If you ask him to do, I'm a believer. And if you ask Jalen Hurts to do more than what he did this year, you take away Saquon, he's still going to be good. He's still that guy. He looks a little chubbier now when he runs. That's it. But he still got good breakaway speed. He's got good straight line speed. He has no wiggle though. No, like he needs to see one cut and go. Like he's running right, put the foot in the ground, get vertical, and then just hit it. And he can do that and run away from people. Well, I got nothing else to add to that. Yeah. Well, we'll see where these guys land. I think Stafford to the Giants. I think Rodgers a crapshoot. That's what I think. I don't know what team is going to take a chance on him. I think it could pay dividends for him though, if they do get him. If you want to see where Aaron Rodgers ends up, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tanner and I are going to be documenting the progress of Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, Tanner's favorite quarterback prospect, Jalen Milroe. We'll be watching all of it over these coming weeks. I used to love Jalen Milroe. Now he's just trashed. Ever since he lost to Michigan and like busted every single holiday parlay I had cooking, like I'm not a fan of him anymore. But he seems like a nice guy. Well, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Ride the Line. Tanner and I appreciate you all being here. Please, before you click off, do hit that subscribe button. Like we mentioned, hit the like button as well. Jump in the comments. Let us know, is Shemar Stewart going to be the first pick in the draft? If not, who would you take? Where do you see some of these quarterbacks falling? And until next time, we hope you have a great weekend. We will catch you all in the next episode of Ride the Line.